Hi friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to recommend some thrillers to you. I actually do have 2 mysteries on this list as well and 1 Audible original, but I have some great books to share with you today. These are ones I highly suggest you pick up. If you missed my romance recommendation video, I will have that linked in the description box for you. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the mysteries first. So the first mystery is Finlay Donovan is Killing It by 𝒂𝒏𝒂𝒔, and I really enjoyed this mystery. It had like a funny kind of premise. It did feel kind of cozy, so I would say it's definitely more mystery than thrilling at all. But the second book comes out in 2022 and I'm really looking forward to it. This one is about our main character, Finlay Donovan. She is a single mother of 2 and she's a struggling novelist. And she is pitching a book. She's sitting with her agent in Panera Bread and they're talking about the plot of her next book. And it talks about like killing and, you know, stuff like that. And the person at the table next to her overhears her, thinks she's like this contract killer or something, and hires her for like $50,000, or wants to hire her for $50,000 or something like that, to take care of her husband. And she's a struggling novelist. She's got mouths to feed at home. She's struggling to get this book written. So like she starts to consider it. And what happens after that is just like a crazy joyride. Absolutely loved it. If you're looking for something like cozy, it doesn't, even though it talks about like death and contract killing and stuff like that, it still feels lighthearted in a way. So if you're looking for something like that, I highly suggest you pick this up, and then you will be ready for when the new release comes. I think this won the Goodreads Choice Award for thriller, and I disagree. I don't think it's a thriller, but I think because it is a popularity contest, this was a book of the month book. It was also a Reese's book club pick, and that is The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. Now don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed this book. I know Beth, you did not. I recently watched her video where she was talking about this book and she didn't really like it, and that's fine. When I originally read it, I read it as soon as I got it, so I didn't hear any buzz or anything like that about it. I just went into it like on my own without preconceived notions, and I gave it 5 stars. And then I think it was like September or October, I revisited my 5-star reads and I was thinking like, are these really 5 stars? And I did bump this one down to 4 stars, but it's somewhere between like a 4 and 5 stars. It's definitely one that I want to reread again. I will say it's more mystery than thriller because there's no thrilling aspects to this book at all. In fact, it's about a lady that is with this guy, and he gives her a letter. All of a sudden he's like gone, he's not coming home, and he gives her a letter that says protect her. And she knows that that means take care of his daughter from like the previous marriage. And then from there they just kind of go on this like hunt. What happened to him? Where is he? What's going on? And things like that. Yeah, the FBI arrests Owen's boss, and then a U.S. Marshal and federal agents go to their home, and then she quickly realizes her husband isn't who he says he is, and it's just like this mystery of like, who is her husband and where is he and what happened and stuff like that. I really enjoyed it. I think you might too. I mean, it was a book of the month pick, it was a Reese's book club pick, and it did win the Goodreads Choice Award, whether we agree that it's a thriller or not. Now I want to talk to you about the Audible original, and it is Sleeping Dogs Lie by Samantha Downing. You guys know I love Samantha Downing. Yes, there will be another Samantha Downing in this list, but this Audible original, like I said, it's only like about 2 hours long. It's about this dog walker named Shelby, and she has this one client that she walks their dog, this husky named Pluto, like bi-weekly, takes the dog to the park. And she's returning to the home of the owner, and she kind of like goes in, she doesn't see the owner, and she goes into the bathroom for whatever reason, and he's laid out on the floor dead. So the cops come, there's an investigator there, they start interviewing her. The guy is this really prominent local businessman with this really like clean-cut image, but the more that they start investigating, the more that they find out that like maybe what you think isn't what really is. Like maybe he's not as clean cut as he comes across. And now let's go ahead and jump into those thrillers. All right, the first one here on the stack is The Perfect Marriage by Jennifer Rose. I think a lot of people were talking about this book this year just because how it was pitched and how it like came across on TikTok. So it kind of blew up because of that. But this is about a woman that is a defense attorney, a powerful, successful defense attorney. And her husband is a struggling writer. So they have like two homes. They have like their main home, and then they kind of have like this like getaway house on this lake or something like that. And it's their anniversary. They're supposed to meet up, but she gets called into work, and he goes to the lake house and he's having an affair. And the lady that he's having an affair with comes over, and then the next morning he wakes up and she's in the bed dead beside him, the mistress. And his wife is going to defend him and say that he didn't kill the mistress. And how like just that premise is so freaking crazy. The next one is going to be a YA recommendation. I think a lot of you guys have probably read this one. It was pretty popular, I think last year or maybe the year before. And it's A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. And this is one I am going to reread because I have the second and the third books now, thanks to some of my friends that sent me Christmas presents. But yeah, I really liked this one. I liked the audiobook experience. I highly recommend the audiobook experience for this one. It is about Pip, who is doing her final project of high school or something like that, and she decides that she wants to investigate this cold case about this really popular student, Andy Bell, that was murdered. And everybody, the police, the town, everybody thought it was the boyfriend that killed her. And then Pip starts believing like maybe it wasn't, and she starts investigating that. The cool thing about it is that it has like multimedia in the text. So I really do recommend you actually having a physical copy of the book with you. But even if you like just borrow it from the library or whatever, but I also suggest listening to it, because when they're on the phone, because like they make phone calls and stuff like that, it actually sounds muffled, like they're on the telephone. And I just can't imagine not doing both. This is the perfect example of read the book physically and listen along. It's just such a great experience. I do have a couple of J.P. Delaney books. Let me pull them both out. I read both of these this year and I loved both of them. The first one is Playing Nice by J.P. Delaney, which is like the newest release. And then I believe this is his debut under this pseudonym, Believe Me by J.P. Delaney. And I loved this story, but I am an outlier, you guys. If you look up any of the reviews on like Goodreads and stuff, people thought this book was trash. So you have to be a very particular type of reader. You have to like particular things. Maybe I need to reread this. Maybe I'm trying to decide what the first book I'm going to read in 2022 is, because I always like reread a book as my first book. And this is another one that I listened to on audio and read along physically, and I loved that experience because it has like ambiance. Like if they're in a bar, you can hear like ambiance, like voices in the back, and you can hear like dishes clattering, and I don't know, it was just so good. A struggling actor, a Brit in America without a green card, Claire needs work and money to survive. Then she gets both, but nothing like she expected. She agrees to become a decoy for a firm of divorce lawyers hired to entrap straying husbands. She must catch them on tape with their seductive propositions. So she tries to proposition this one guy. Then the game changes when the wife of one of Claire's targets is violently murdered. The cops are sure the husband is to blame. So yeah, she goes to catch this guy as like the cheater. He doesn't take the bait. And then his wife, the one that hired her, ends up brutally murdered. And you're like, whoa, how are these things connected? Are they connected? And all of that. I loved this book because you don't know if her husband, the guy that she was propositioning, is a serial killer. And the FBI get involved and then they hire her to help her investigate, and it's just, oh, such a crazy ride. And then this one, Playing Nice, I actually got for Christmas last year from Jessie, and then Jessie and I buddy read this early this year. Look, I have her little note in there. This is about a couple that has a little boy, and then one day, the dad is the stay-at-home dad and the mom like works. One day this guy comes to the house and says, hey, hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we have your child and you have our child. They were switched at birth. Now that wouldn't be so bad if it was like 10 days in, but the kids are like 2 years old. So you've basically been raising a child as your child for 2 years, and then you find out it's not biologically your child. What would you do? Would you switch back kids? Like, how would that work? So this explores all of that and more. It's one of those like moral dilemma type thrillers. It really makes you think like, what would you do in that situation? Highly recommend this one. Next up is a book that was not on my radar at all. I just picked it up at the book exchange. It was a book of the month book, and I wanted to get through some of my book of the month books. So I picked it up like early in the year, like I think it was like mid-January. So it's Since We Fell by Dennis Lehane. And this, I mean, this is chunky. I didn't really know too much going in. Even if I read you the synopsis, it doesn't tell you very much. It just says about, I mean, it's a very short synopsis to start. After a very public breakdown, Rachel Childs, once a tenacious globetrotting journalist, now lives as a virtual shut-in. In all other respects, however, she enjoys an ideal life with an ideal husband until a chance encounter on a rainy afternoon causes that ideal life to fray. As does Rachel's marriage, as does Rachel herself. She's sucked into a conspiracy and stuff like that. Basically, the reason why I really enjoyed this book is it's interesting throughout, but it's like this weird journey that you take. It starts with this woman never knowing who her father is. Her mother never told her who her biological father was. She's always wanted to know, and now her mother is gone, and she still wants to know who her father is, if he's still out there. So she hires a private investigator to find her father. And in the process, she has this chance encounter with this person. And then later, she goes on to do this broadcast about something, and she has her mental breakdown. She ends up bumping into the person again, and things just get like really weird and really thrilling. This is another one that I really want to reread. So, I mean, these are definitely contenders to reread. Next, this will be no surprise, The Push by Ashley Aldring. This is a book that I was really enjoying throughout. I loved the themes of motherhood and generational trauma, and you have a mother who doesn't think her daughter is connecting with her. She was always worried about that because of her relationship with her mother, and then her mother's relationship with her mother. Like I said, it's like a generational type thing. And you do get pieces of that in the story. 1939 to 1958. And then it's just, it was so interesting. And I just want to say, like, another one that's like interesting throughout, but the ending is so freaking solid, you guys. Highly recommend you check that out. There are some trigger warnings that I would look up if you are sensitive to particular things. Next up, Razor Blade Tears by 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒂𝒔. Oh, this book, you guys. This book is so good. And I literally have to thank Riley Sager himself for me reading this book, because on the outside looking in, it's not a book that I would have picked up from Book of the Month. I was actually considering skipping that month. What was it? July. I was going to skip July. But I saw this article where Riley Sager recommended like 5 summer thrillers, and this was on there. So I picked it up and I did that video, which a lot of you guys liked. I love that video. I read a lot of good books in that video, but this one is something else. It's gonna be one of my all-time favorites, and it's because of Ike and Buddy Lee. So you have 2 ex-cons, one's black, one's white. Their sons were gay and married, and now these ex-cons are pissed because their sons are dead and they're out to get the guys that killed them. And it is just a wild, action-packed, pedal to the metal ride, but it also mixes in racial themes, LGBT themes, all of that, and it's just excellent. I mean, Ike and Buddy Lee are some of my all-time favorite characters, like all-time favorite characters. So if you have this sitting on your shelf from Book of the Month and you haven't read it yet, this is me telling you to pick it up sooner rather than later. All right, next up, They Never Learned by Lainey Fargo. I was hearing a lot of buzz about this. I actually had this on my radar for a really long time, and then when I finally picked it up, I was like, I should have picked it up sooner, but you know, there's so many books, so little time. This is about a professor that works on she's working on campus and she's killing people. So she's a serial killer. There's a dual timeline, dual perspective going on, and it's a female serial killer killing people because they did something crappy, like rape somebody. So highly recommend this. I'm sure you've heard about that. It's getting a lot of buzz. All right, I was a fan. These 2 books get a lot of hate, but I loved both of them, and I don't really care if you did or you didn't. This is about my favorites. It's these 2. Every Value Break by Peter Swanson and Survive the Night by Riley Sager. This one I read on release day, so I didn't hear anybody else's thoughts when I read it, and I like that because I would have been hesitant to pick it up had I listened to everybody else. I understand why people don't like this. I get it, but it worked for me. I really liked it. I recommend it. It's about a woman that is about to get married and she cheats on her fiance. And now she's married and they go on their honeymoon, and on their honeymoon, the guy that she cheated with shows up at her honeymoon and is wanting to like be with her. And she's like, what the heck? I can't find my husband finding out about this. And things just take off from there. Highly recommend. I liked it. Some people didn't. Do your own research. And then Survive the Night. Granted, I understand that if you do not like unlikable, dumb characters doing dumb things, like, you're probably not going to like this book. But also, I would say that, did you read the end? Do you know what actually happened? Because it just blows my mind when people are like, oh my gosh, she was making such stupid decisions. And I'm like, but did you read the end though? Did you read the end part where it talked about that thing? I digress. This book wouldn't have happened if there wasn't a dumb character making dumb decisions. A lot of people will think it's like unbelievable for someone to get in the car of a stranger to get like a ride share home from college or something like that. It's not that far-fetched. It literally still happens today in colleges across the United States. No, there's not usually a serial killer at loose, but she wasn't even thinking, it wasn't even a thought in her head when she got the ride that this was going to be the killer. She thought that it wasn't, you know, she just said, I just need to get home. She was desperate for a ride home. She wanted to get out of there. This is the person that offered her a ride. The boyfriend sent her off with this guy. So everything seemed on the up and up. So why people are so pissed off that this woman made a stupid decision when millions of Americans that are in college right now literally do this all the time. Did you read the ending though? Did you finish the book? Did you read the ending and what actually happened? But I digress. If you don't like the book, it's totally okay, but I read this on release night. I absolutely loved it. I rated it 5 out of 5 stars, and I will continue to pick up Riley Sager. Are his books masterpieces? Are they going to win the Nobel Peace Prize? No, but they're so entertaining, and that's what I'm here for. So both of these super entertaining for me. Maybe they will be for you, maybe not. But let's talk about the last book on this list. The last one is For Your Own Good by Samantha Downing, which is the same author of Let Sleeping Dogs Lie, or Sleeping Dogs Lie, that I talked about, the Audible original. This is Samantha Downing's new release, and it is an academia type story about this teacher that is just this asshole. He's a complete asshole. He feels like he knows what everybody should be doing. What I liked about this one is it offered so many little surprising things chapter after chapter. So while they're not like mind-blowing twists after twists, it's like little things that you're just not expecting, or will go in a different way, or you'll get a different perspective and you're like, what's happening? So I really enjoyed this one. If you've read this one, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section down below. Those are my recommendations today. I know it was a lot. Hopefully you got something out of this video. Maybe there was one book on here that you haven't read that you need to pick up, because I suggest all of these. So these are authors that I have read and loved before, and then these are all new authors. So that's super exciting that I found a bunch of new authors to keep an eye on. But that's all for today's video. Let me know if you didn't see any thrillers on my list that you think I should read, and I'll let you know if I've read them, or if they're on my radar or on my TBR shelf. Anyway, leave me recommendations down in the comment section down below. That's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all having a lovely day or night, and I'll see you guys again in another video very soon. Bye guys!